Good evening. It's 6 o'clock, so I think we'll get started. Thank you for attending this meeting of the Planning Committee on Thursday, the 12th of September 2024. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Councillor Elaine Stringfellow, and I'm Vice Chair of the Planning Committee. In the absence of the Chair, Councillor Caleb Tomlinson, I'll be chairing this evening's meeting. Committee members and members of the public are reminded that the meeting is being recorded and streamed live to YouTube, so behave. If you're attending the meeting because you're a member of the public who has registered to speak, please note you have a time limit of 4 minutes, but I don't think we've got anybody today. You will be timed. I'll confirm when the 4 minutes run out. I don't need to read the rest of that because nobody here. Voting will be undertaken by the electronic voting system, and then the outcome of the vote will be confirmed by our legal officer, Taz, once complete. I'll begin with some housekeeping. Please can you ensure that mobile phones are either switched off or turned on to silent mode? And we're not anticipating a fire alarm drill, but if the alarm does go off, you should leave via the fire exit in the wheel room, which is that direction, and wait on the car park to the rear of the building. If I can now ask everyone to introduce themselves, starting to my left and go around one by one. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Tasneem Safdar. I'm Head of Legal and Procurement and Deputy Monitoring Officer.
Good evening. My name's Carol Asprey and I'm the Democratic Member Services Officer.
Good evening, Chris Lomax, Councillor Wantley East.
Evening all, Wesley Roberts, Councillor for Buckshire and Woodlands, and I'm substituting for Councillor Matthew Farnworth.
Good evening, Councillor Phil Smith. I represent New Longton and Hutton East.
Good evening, Councillor David Shaw, representing Howick Priory in Penwortham.
Good evening, Councillor Peter Molyneux, Sandra in Walton Ward.
Good evening, Councillor Hayden Williams, representing Leyland Central.
Good evening, Councillor Mary Green, Councillor for Moss Side and Midge Hall.
Hi, I'm Keith Martin. I'm elected member at Middleford.
Good evening, Rachel Clitheroe, Planning Officer.
Good evening, Janice Crook, Planning Officer.
Good evening, Lisa Mathewson, Senior Planning Officer.
Good evening, Elizabeth Hindle, Head of Planning and Enforcement.
Carol, have we got some absences?
Yes, Chair, we've had apologies from Councillor Caleb Tomlinson, who's substituted this evening by Councillor Keith Martin, and apologies from Councillor Matthew Farnworth, who's substituted this evening by Councillor Wesley Roberts.
Thank you. And does anyone have any interests to declare? No interests. I have the minutes of the last meeting, which was on the 18th of July 2024, in front of me. I'd like to have read them. I'd like to propose that we pass those. And would anybody like to second that? Or anybody got any comments on the minutes? Councillor Phil Smith.
Thank you. I will be delighted to second them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? No. Can we go to the vote, please? Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Those minutes are approved.
Okay. Lizzie, do we have any appeal decisions, please?
Thank you, Chair. We do. We have the first one, which was an appeal at Holly Hodge on Gill Lane in Longton. The appeal was against condition 3 and 4, which were imposed on the planning permission. One restricted domestic curtilage, requiring removal of the building on or before 2 years of the decision, and the other was taken away permitted development rights. The appeal was allowed, and therefore the conditions were varied on the planning permission. The second one was 66 Ampleforth Drive in Lostock Hall. This was a refusal of a retrospective retrospective timber cabin in the front garden, and that decision was upheld by the inspector and the appeal was dismissed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Lizzie. Right, now we can move on to item 6, and this is Rachel to present, please.
Thank you, Chair. So the application is for the change of use of a vacant hairdressing studio to a hot food takeaway and the installation of an internal extraction flue. So this is the application site. It sits on the corner between Station Road and Moon Street. It is within Policy B1, existing built-up area, but it should be noted that the properties opposite are within the district centre. Okay, so the premises is currently vacant, and it's proposed for the ground floor to be converted into the hot food takeaway, with the second and the roof space to remain empty, with the possibility to use for storage for the hot food takeaway. And from the photo, you can see to the right that is a residential property. So the proposed opening hours for this hot food takeaway will be Monday to Friday, 11 till 11. Saturday will be 11 till 23:59, and Sundays and bank holidays again 11 till 11. You can see from the elevational drawing on the right hand side that the flue would project through the rear roof space only by 1.19 metres and will sit below the main ridge by 0.05 metres. And that's the only external change that's proposed to the property. You can see from the floor plans the changes they are proposing to the ground floor. Everything else is remaining the same. Okay, so this just shows you where the proposed positioning of the flue will be within the roof space. You can see the adjacent neighbouring property to the left. So it is the furthest point away from that residential property. And just where the wall is to the right hand side, that's where the proposal is, the proposed refuse storage is for the bins. So this just shows the relationship for the neighbours to the rear and to the left hand side of the property. You can see on the bottom photo that it is a travel agent, so again that's within retail use. And to the rear there are these properties, but it is separated by an alleyway, and there is quite a considerable distance between the property and the proposal site. Okay, and this just shows you directly facing, again, retail units, but this is within the district centre. We have received one objection, which the concerns for that have been addressed within the report. There's been no objections from any of the statutory consultees, and for that reason, and for the reasons stated in the report, the proposal is recommended for approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. That's very concise.
Through you, Chair, I've just had confirmation that condition 1 in respect of that application actually... Oh, sorry, my apologies. Ignore that comment. We'll discuss that for the next item.
Thanks. There are no registered speakers on this item, so I'll now bring the application into committee, please. Anybody like to speak? Councillor Phil Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I don't see anything wrong with the application, to be quite honest. I'm absolutely delighted to see an extraction track run through the building and come out through the roof that's not on the back of a building like something from British Aerospace or Cape Canaveral. So I'll propose approval, Chair. Thank you. Aligned with the officer's report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lomax.
I would second that. I don't think there's anything else to put, but we've had no flood of complaints. And yeah, I second.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to? Oh, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. There's just two things sort of probably for information, really. I'm sort of a bit worried about opening times being so late on a Sunday and a bank holiday, because I sort of think who's going to be out at that time of night when they got work in the morning, but that might not be a case for some people. The other one is the extractor, the maintenance of the extractor. I mean, it's going to be on a roof and not sort of as BAE Systems might have it. Just wondered if that's covered in any of the conditions, or is that an environmental impact, or will be impacted by environmental policies?
Can you help us with that, Rachel?
Yep, so we have had a response from Environmental Health. The conditions they've requested are at the end of the report. In response to the opening times, there have been a few within the area. For example, we've got Zest Lounge and Bar at 188 Station Road, which had the condition varied earlier this year, with opening hours on a Saturday till 12:30. And then another example would be 249B Station Road, which again had a variation of conditions this year. The opening hours of 8 o'clock till midnight Sunday to Thursday, 8 o'clock till 1 a.m. Friday, Saturday, and nationally recognised bank holidays.
Are you happy with that? Yeah. Okay. Anybody else like to speak? In that case, can we go to the vote, please?
Perfect. Thank you, Chair. So committee have unanimously decided to grant planning permission in respect to the change of use of vacant hairdressing studio to a hot food takeaway at 228 Station Road, Bamber Bridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we move on to item 7, please, which is Rachel again? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. There has been an update to this, so I will just let you know that beforehand. Share my screen actually first. Yep, so the recommendation for this one has changed due to a change in the description. So we've changed the description to retrospective because following 2 site visits, it was clear that work had started after the application had come in. So in that, we do have to put retrospective and reconsult with neighbours on that. So the new recommendation would be that committee are minded to grant planning permission and that decision is delegated to the chair of planning committee and the head of planning and enforcement following completion of the renovation of the renotification period in respect of the revised description of development should no new issues be raised. And then also since the report was published, we have had a response from our SIL team as well where they raised no issues. So I'll just make that known. So the proposal for this is a retrospective conversion of an existing integral garage into an annex and single-storey rear extension. Now, the reason that this has come to committee is because the applicant is related to a member of staff. Otherwise, for this type of application, we wouldn't usually fetch it to committee. So yeah, this just shows the site. It is on the estate opposite Runshaw College in Leyland. I'm sure you're all familiar with the site, or most of you are. So it is quite a large property, as you can see from the floor plans. So this will show you the internal changes. So you can see that it's 2 garages that are being converted into residential living accommodation, so the annex, with a single-storey rear extension to the rear to extend the kitchen area. So this is just to show you the changes externally. So they've changed the garage doors to 2 windows. They've added patio doors to the side elevation, a high set window which will serve a bathroom and will be obscurely glazed, and a window to the rear. So this is from the second site visit. You can see that the work has quite clearly started. So this is just to give you an idea, obviously, what it's going to look like now that it's halfway done. I'll show you one from the rear as well, because they have done a bit of work to the rear where they bricked up part of that wall where you can see the single door. No work started on the rear elevation yet, but the bottom picture shows you what they're extending off of. Usually for rear extensions as well, you might class them as PD, but because it's been extended off an existing extension, it requires the planning permission. So this is to the left of the property. It's a public right, well, it's a footpath. So you can see there is substantial separation between next door and the property, and sufficient screening along the boundary with the hedges. There's been no objections received for this application. Obviously, it is going through another reconsultation period. We're not expecting any further, any objections, seeing as we've not received any previously. No objections from statutory bodies either. And then, so it's recommended for approval. Minded that planning permission is granted and the decision is delegated. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. I think Taz would like to say something.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to bring to members' attention in respect to this application, there is condition 1, which indicates that the development should begin within 3 years. But given the fact that it's a retrospective application, that condition needs to be removed. So when you are obviously considering this application, that's just something to consider as well. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no registered speakers on this item either, so I bring the application into committee, and it's deciding whether we're minded to grant planning permission, and the decision will be delegated to the chair of the planning committee. Would anybody like to speak? Councillor Shaw, thank you.
Thank you. I can see the situation that the applicant finds themselves in. I've read the supplementary report that has been described. I can't see a problem here, to be honest. I would go along with the recommendation that's been made that it be referred to the planning officer.
So are you proposing that we do? Yeah, thank you. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I will second that. I think it's fairly straightforward. I mean, it's quite a complex application in many ways, I suppose. It's just one little change that you might want to consider with regard to delegating it to the chair, who's not here. Maybe if he put the chair or vice chair of the committee, as you're here at. But apart from that, I would second it. Thank you.
Can we do that? Do we need to amend anything, or?
Through you, Chair, once we've the discussions obviously happen, if there's any further sort of comments to make, I'll indicate what the members are actually voting on and include any amendments.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? No?
Thank you, Chair. So members are basically voting on approving, and it's amended to grant planning permission, that the decision is delegated to the chair of the planning committee or the vice chair in consultation with the head of planning enforcement following the completion of the re-notification period in respect to the revised description of development. And also just to mention that condition 1 will be removed as well. So that's what you're voting for, members.
Thank you, Taz. Can we go to the vote, please, then?
So that vote has been carried, Chair.
Thank you. Move on to item 8, which is Janice, I believe, yeah? Can you present that for us, Janice, please?
Thank you, Chair. Bear with me while I get to the right bit. Right. So this application relates to the Hunters Public House, which is located on Hennell Lane. The site's within the existing built-up area of Waltonley Dale in a mainly residential area. And this site location plan shows its relationship to neighbouring residential properties on Hennell Lane and Cherry Trees. So the application proposes the removal of the existing stretch tent and installation of a bioclimatic aluminium pergola to the outside bar area. And the red area on this plan just shows the area of development. So this aerial photo shows the existing area of the stretch tent. This plan shows the existing site layout. So bearing in mind some of that external area is actually covered over. So as I mentioned, the application proposes a bioclimatic aluminium pergola, and this plan shows the areas to be covered by the pergola. And these images show how it will appear. So the top 3 images, they're just showing, you know, the public house, the external area. And then the one at the bottom's off the technical details that was sent in, just shows the slats can be opened and closed, you know, depending on what the weather's like. So this is a couple of photographs of the existing stretch tent, which, as you can see, is a bit of a slightly scruffy appearance now. These are just the external timber booths that are on the site. And then the next few slides just show the application site in the context of the area. This is a Google Street View image of the Hunters from across the road, and it clearly shows the stretch tent there. So this is a view taken from Millwood Road, looking down towards the Hunters and showing the residential properties opposite. And then this is another image showing neighbouring properties, and you can see there the entrance to the car park. So we've had letters of objection, 10 received, but in the main, they relate to the existing use of the premises and relate to noise and disturbance and parking issues. So the external bar area gained planning permission in 2019, which was for external bar, timber booths with seating and associated timber pergolas, jumbrellas, and the installation of a new flue. So conditions were imposed on that planning permission, with conditions 3 and 4 restricting the use of the external area. So condition 3 said the outside area, including the bar and seated booths, shall be restricted to the hours of 10 AM to 10 PM on all days, including weekends and public holidays. And condition 4 was that no external speakers or television shall be installed within the permitted development, i.e. that which was being permitted as part of that planning permission. So comments received highlighted that the pub focuses on large sporting events and live music, which go on till late into the evening. So I raised these matters with enforcement, and they've been to the premises, and as a result, the external TVs and PA system has been removed from the external areas, and the applicant was reminded of the hours of use. And these conditions can be reimposed on this current application. So the other main point of objection was the fact that patrons are parking on the local streets, causing obstruction to residents. But you can see from this image, the public house does have a large car park, which I think it accommodates around 55 vehicles. And the proposal does not alter the number of parking spaces. And therefore, the problem seems to be how patrons use the car park rather than being insufficient parking space. And County Highways have no objections to the proposal. And, you know, we must note that there's nothing in the planning system that can prevent people parking on a public highway. And I noticed there didn't seem to be any parking restrictions in the vicinity of the site. So really, these matters do not relate to the application that's before you now. And it's considered that the actual proposal for the bioclimatic aluminium pergola will improve the overall appearance, and as such is recommended for approval subject to the imposition of conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Janice. That explained a lot of things. Thank you. Although we haven't got any registered speakers on the item, the applicant is here observing. If anybody has any questions for them, they'd be happy to answer, I believe. Is that right? So would anybody like to speak? Councillor Williams.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm just been looking at this, and thanks for Janice to explaining that. Obviously, we've got the condition on here about the outside area 10 till 10, and it's good to know that any sort of TV equipment and speakers have been removed. Whether they were a breach of previous conditions, and God only knows. I'm not going to go anywhere near that, but. That any sort of permanent equipment has been removed. What I am slightly concerned about is the fact that it says whether they're installed there. What I'm worried about is temporary equipment with bands and things, whatever, setting up outside. I'm just wondering whether that condition applies to bands setting up outside underneath that pergola. So that's one thing. Or a TV could be wheeled into place, then wheeled back out again, rather than a permanent fixture. So just wondering whether that anything needs tightening up on that. As regards whether it's made of fabric or whether it's made of aluminium, the parking issue isn't an issue. Doesn't matter what it's made of. It's not that's not an issue to me at all. The only other thing is the material of the pergola. I'm presuming it doesn't attenuate any more particular noise than what a fabric noise reverberation bouncing out onto various different receptors in the area. I don't know, but I think I know one. I think I've seen a similar example to what this pergola is. I think there's one up at Rivington Barn that's very, very similar. It's like a frame, and then effectively a roller comes out and covers the area up. But I don't know whether noise is attenuated with it being lower down rather than a big high pergola. That's the only thing that I'm bothered about. See if you can get any advice on that.
Janice, can you answer those, please?
It's para 10.4.7, taken from the technical details. It did state in that it minimises noise that may occur during its operation. That's the operation, but there wasn't really any details about minimising other noise. And I don't think the purpose of it is to minimise noise. It was just, the appearance. But obviously, a lot of the noise and issues were caused by, the use beyond the 10 o'clock.
But as regards the hours, past 10 p.m. and whatever, is the temporary speakers and whatever and things like that. It says more fixed equipment in the conditions there. Is there a potential wiggle room if things are like a temporary TV or a temporary speakers?
Councillor Williams, Lizzie would like to come in on that. Okay.
Thanks, Councillor. Yeah, if there's the concerns in regards to noise, obviously been assessed by Environmental Health, and they've not made any objections. I think it's key to point out that if they do have a temporary band or something like that comes to play at the public house, then it would be controlled by a licence, and that would be covered again. We'd look at hours of use, etc. with that, so they would need a licence for that.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that, so I'll propose approval.
Councillor Shaw.
It's been bugging me from the representations that were made. There were points made about bats in the nearby trees, but I can't see anything in the report that actually addresses whether or not that's actually a valid concern or not.
Do you want to come in about that, Janice?
Yeah, the actual application, the pergola, doesn't have any impact on any of the trees in the surrounding area. You know, the development doesn't affect them in any way. And the stretch tent, the removal of it, you know, it's not the sort of structure that would house bats or they'd be roosting there. So it's not really relevant to this application.
I was thinking really that you're enclosing an area that previously just had cloth enclosure, but I don't know what sort of light spillage there might be that might affect the bats in the if they were in the immediate vicinity.
Yeah, sorry, Chair, for you. The actual use isn't changing. You know, the use of the external area, they're just swapping one sort of material for another. So, you know, in my view, it doesn't impact on the bats at all, or, you know, any difference in the light spillage or anything. In fact, there might be marginally less because they can open and close the slats of the pergola, whereas the tent affair is all open at the sides. And as you'll see from the image that I showed in the presentation, it did have some, you know, down the sides as well. So, but it's not something that would be affected by this development.
Okay, I don't see any problem with seconding the approval then.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. Although the report just indicates the operation of the sliding panels, there will be some acoustic differences. I mean, I do sound engineering for various bands, and when you set up in a steel box or an aluminium box, it certainly notices the difference between that. However, that's sort of probably not in our remit to look at. I mean, given the number of comments about what's happened in the past, we can't do anything about that. I mean, I think all I can say really is that the pub or the establishment and the neighbours should try and get on. So I think there's a responsibility just to make sure that you're good neighbours and try and reduce this sort of thing. I know you're very busy. I've seen it. I've heard it. I've seen your posts on Facebook. You're successful, but there is a bit of neighbourly sort of like a good neighbourhood sort of spirit probably needs to be invoked and probably try to quell some of these complaints. So I wish you luck, and I'm happy to support.
Thank you. Councillor Molyneux, and then Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, we've got a number of objections, but the objections, as the officer has stated a number of times, they're not really to do with this application. And for me, it does improve the situation as it is at the moment. As far as the covering that up, I would have thought it's probably better protection as well, because if it's at the moment, it's just open, isn't it? You've got the top on there, and then you'd have the wind blowing through and so on. If we get that situation with this, if this goes through, the sides will be covered, won't they? So, am I right in saying that there's sort of it's
that, Janice, or do you not know? She's just looking.
It's not just a canopy. Has it got sides on there, or any protection there? Is it wide open?
Yeah, because I did show this on the slide, but you can see from the images, you know, the sides and obviously, I don't know if you can see this. You know,
yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
Sorry, do you want me to put the slide back up?
No, it's all right. I've just had a look next door. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I'm willing to support that. I think it is enhancing the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Smith and then Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. I've got nothing more to add, really. I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Green? Did you want to speak, Councillor Green? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just inquiring Councillor Martin, who seems to have a bit of experience about the sound. The only concern I have with this is It's right opposite those bungalows, which it says there's a lot of elderly people. I mean, this is not an application of the first application where we're saying whether we want it or not. It's already there. It's a situation that's already there. Probably not a perfect situation, but you know, to a certain extent, they've had to live with this. And now the only concern I have now, the only thing I think that this different covering could have, is amplifying the sound, which obviously would be a concern for the neighbours and will affect the amenity of the residents around. That's the only thing I'm concerned about. It's good that there's conditions on till 10 o'clock, which I think need to be stringent and kept there. But I don't know, it said that they might be controlled by regular checkups by the enforcement officers and that. I would be keen on that happening, because if it is going to extenuate the sound, it's going to be very unpleasant for the residents around there. And I then wouldn't think it would be a good idea in changing that covering. But like I say, you know, I think really the conditions need to be very, very tight on this. Relevant to the times and the conditions of it, the running of it, and what type of entertainment and noise that's going to be in there. And like Councillor Williams have said, we need to be careful that the rules aren't sort of bent by wheeling things out and taking things in, so it's not a permanent fixture. So they are suiting the requirements, but in a way it's like bending the rules in a way. I'm just concerned about the amenity of the residents, really.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Janice would like to speak.
Yeah, just if it provides you with some comfort, Councillor Green. I spoke to one of the residents who wasn't aware that conditions had been imposed on the original permission, which I'm obviously reimposing them. So I explained to him, and hopefully he's passed it on to his neighbours, about the report button on our council's website on the homepage. So I said, if there is any issues or any problems, if you just go onto that for planning enforcement, you know, it's just then simply typing out what the issue is and they'll pick it up straight away. And obviously they weren't aware of that. So, you know, now they are, you know, they know how to get, you know, if there is an issue, they know what to do.
Lizzie would like to speak about that.
We could actually add some word into condition 4 as well, to say no external speakers or television shall be installed or utilised within the permitted development, if that's better. Yeah, we can do that for you.
Thank you. Does anybody else, anything they would like to say? No? In that case, can we go to the vote with this amended condition?
Through your chair, can we just have a proposal and a seconder in respect of the amendment? So in respect to the condition that's just been amended.
Okay.
So I think the original proposal was Councillor Williams with Councillor Shaw seconding. Would you like to propose and Councillor Shaw second that amendment to the condition, please?
Yes. Okay. Councillor Shaw. Yeah.
Thank you for that information, both.
Okay. So we can go to the vote now, I think.
Thank you, Chair. So members have decided to approve with conditions with the amendments that we've just mentioned in respect of the removal of the stretch tent and installation of the bioclimatic aluminium pergola at the Hunters, Heron Lane, Nostock Hall. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Taz. If you've just come for that, if you want to leave now, you can, or you're welcome to stay and enjoy the rest of the proceedings. Okay. Okay, shall we move on to item 9, please? And that is Lisa, please.
Thank you, Chair. There's two applications on this, so there's just one presentation because both of the items relate to the same property, which is the establishment known as Bread and Butter, which is sited on 10 Liverpool Road in Penwortham. The only reason these items are at committee is because they relate to a drinking establishment. Property is a commercial property. It's located on the edge of a row of terrace properties, which also includes 16 on the Hill, which members will be familiar with, and numbers 10 to 16 Liverpool Road and number 2 Priory Lane. The terrace extends round the corner onto Priory Lane and is positioned opposite Tesco Superstore, where you could see the petrol filling station and the car park on the image on the left-hand side there. So this is just an aerial image blown up a little bit just to provide a wider context. So you've got other drinking and eating establishments, which is positioned to the west of the site in question, which is outlined in red as well. To the north of the premises, you've got a car park also, which is associated with those units below. So these are images of the front, where you've got the terrace on the left-hand side there. Where the property in question is at the immediate right-hand side, and that's just a closer-up image of the property in question. Just got the eastern side there, where you've got the tables and chairs stacked, where there's a cut through which leads to the car park as well on it. So it's the property at the right-hand side on the left image, and then properties at the rear where you've got residential apartments on both of those images there. So the site is located in the boundary of Penwortham District Centre, which is defined under policy E4 of our adopted local plan. So the two applications, it's for a variation of conditions for hours of opening, and then just to re-establish the external table and chair clearance related to the historic permission. Existing permission only goes up till 10 p.m, so the application is seeking to bring it in line with other establishments which are similar along the row as well and wider in Penwortham. In this image here, you can just show where there's the full application is for the 2 joined pergolas to the front of the seating area, just to provide some covered seating. You can see on the left-hand side there, that's how it looks at the minute, the existing front elevation, and then on the right-hand side, you can just see where you've got the pergola structure, which will go just below the height of the windows to the frontage. These are some other examples which is just located further along the road. So you've got Lime Bar there, which you've got a larger pergola structures there. And then that's 16 on the Hill, which is just on the corner of the same terrace, where you've got a pergola feature that will look similar to that, same colours and heights, etc. And the upper stanchions. So as the premises and others on the roads already used established seating externally to the frontage, and the hours proposed to be the same. There's not considered to be any acceptable harm as a result, and it's within the district centre, as I've indicated earlier, where such uses are proposed. There isn't any objections from any statutory consultees to the application who have been consulted, and there's no objections from any neighbouring properties either. So the proposal will obviously enable greater use of the external area for the existing premises. The hours will be restricted by condition. So the proposal is acceptable and recommended for approval, just to outline it as 2 separate applications as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We do need to vote separately on item 9 and item 10. So would anybody like to speak on either of them? Item 9 to begin with. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. Just a bit of context from me on that area. That area has had quite a renaissance. So it's improved greatly. The amenity of the whole area, although it's not in the district centre, I believe it's still quite an important part of the town. It aligns with the work of Penwortham Town Council as well, with their venues and things like that. So I don't have any objection to the pergola side of it, and I'd like to support that. One of the things that's not mentioned mentioned in any of these pergola sort of type is the protection from sun, which is very important nowadays. I mean, anyone who's had any issues with sun related skin issues will know how important that is. So I think it's quite a valuable addition to that. And if people are going to be sit outside and drinking, then the last thing they want to do is get seriously burnt. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Williams.
I think we've spoken a few times about all the properties within that particular row and the fact that all they want is parity with everybody else and to be able to have all the same conditions. So I'm quite happy to support both applications. I just want to clarify paragraph 10.17. It relates to all to neighbouring premises. It's under agenda item 9. 10.17 says ginger ale. An application to seek the variation of the use of external seating to be used up to 10 p.m. was refused at planning committee. So I want to clarify that was actually, I believe that was actually approved, not refused.
It was approved in November.
Yeah. So I was thinking, I remember it. I'm just want to make sure that has no bearing on anybody else's decision, but I'm quite happy to propose. If Councillor Martin's proposed, then I'm quite happy to second both applications.
Or for just the pergolas?
That's right, yeah. I thought we were doing it separately, but I'm happy for both if you need a proposal for both. Thank you.
Okay. And you would like to second?
I'm quite happy to second both applications at item 9 and item 10,
you.
both the opening hours and the pergola.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak on this? No? Councillor Smith.
Yeah, just a query. Looking at the photograph I've got on here of the pergola, is it glazed on the side? And if it is it proper safety glass and there's some protection across there to stop people bumping into it? Because it's quite a busy thoroughfare one way or another.
Lisa, do you know?
The information I've had, it's not proposed to be glazed on the images that's been provided.
Thank you. So no. Of conditions.
Thank you, Chair. So in respect of item 9, the variation of the conditions, that's been approved by members. So we will now go to item 10, which is the pergolas.
What's it doing?
Does it need resetting? It's not working.
Oh. That's everybody.
Thank you, Chair. So members have decided to approve permission in respect of erection of 2 joint pergolas at 10 Liverpool Road, and that's with conditions. Thank you.
Well, that's everything for this evening. Thank you very much for attending, and see you next time. Thank you.